Feel God's presence in your life. Father of mercy, in the quiet place where hearts breathe and worries finally loosen their grip, we come before you not with polished words, but with tired hope, carrying the weight of bodies that ache, minds that race, families that need healing, and futures that feel uncertain, remembering how your word speaks of you as our refuge and strength, a very present help in times of trouble. And so we lean into that promise now, asking you to look gently upon our health, to touch every place of weakness with your restoring hand, to let breath return where fear has tightened the chest, to let peace flow where pain has spoken too loudly, to remind us that we are fearfully and wonderfully made and never forgotten. And as we stand here in this sacred moment, if your heart feels heavy or hopeful or both, you might softly open your hands and let your own need rise toward him, trusting that he listens with compassion deeper than words. As this prayer keeps unfolding like a slow dawn, we remember how you walked among the broken and never turned away, how Scripture tells us you healed the sick, restored the weary, and spoke life into places everyone else avoided. And so we bring before you our families, the ones close and the ones distant, the conversations that hurt, the silences that linger, the love that feels strained, asking you to rebuild what time, pride, or misunderstanding has worn down, to pour patience where anger once lived, to plant forgiveness where resentment has taken root, to teach us how to love the way you love, steady and faithful. And if there is a name resting on your heart right now, someone you wish could feel peace again, you can gently whisper them into this moment, knowing that God gathers every unspoken prayer with tenderness and care. Lord of provision, as our thoughts drift toward tomorrow and the weight of responsibility presses in, we remember the promise written that you know what we need before we even ask, that you clothe the fields and feed the birds. And so we place our finances before you without shame or fear, the bills that wait, the work that feels unstable, the effort that seems unseen, asking you to open doors no one can shut, to grant wisdom in every decision, discipline in every step, and peace that is not tied to numbers or outcomes, reminding us that our worth is never measured by what we have or lack. And if anxiety about provision has been following you quietly, this is a moment where you can breathe and offer that concern to him, trusting that his care reaches into every practical detail of your life. God of all understanding, when our minds feel crowded with choices and our hearts feel unsure of the path ahead, we remember how your word says that if anyone lacks wisdom, they may ask, and you will give generously, without reproach. And so we come not pretending to know, but admitting our need, asking you to quiet the noise of comparison, to soften the pressure of expectations, to guide our steps with a light that does not rush but remains steady, helping us discern what is yours and what is not meant for us to carry, shaping our decisions with truth rather than fear. And as this moment lingers, if you feel lost or unsure about what comes next, you may gently invite God into that question, trusting that his guidance unfolds one faithful step at a time. Faithful Father, as this prayer keeps moving like a river through the deeper places of the soul, we bring before you the longing to live with purpose, remembering how you spoke through Scripture that we were created for good works prepared in advance, not as accidents of time, but as intentional expressions of your love. And so we ask you to awaken what has been dormant, to breathe meaning into ordinary days, to help us see how our presence, our kindness, our perseverance can become vessels of hope for others, even when the world feels overwhelming. And if you have ever wondered whether your life truly matters, you can let that question rest here now, trusting that God's design for you is already unfolding in ways you may not yet see. Compassionate Lord, in the gentle space where emotions surface and memories quietly speak, we bring you the hidden wounds that have shaped us, the disappointments that taught us caution, the prayers that once felt unanswered, remembering how the Psalms say, you are close to the brokenhearted, and you save those crushed in spirit. And so we ask you to tend to our inner healing with patience and grace, to replace shame with dignity, fear with trust, and sorrow with a hope that does not deny pain but walks through it, reminding us that nothing we have endured has placed us beyond your reach. And if there is a hurt you rarely name out loud, this moment can become a safe place to offer it to God, believing he receives it with a tenderness that never diminishes. God of peace, as this devotion deepens and our breathing slows into your presence, We lift up our physical bodies again, remembering how your word tells us that you are the Lord who heals us, that even in weakness your strength is made perfect. And so we ask you to move gently through muscles, bones, nerves, and cells, to calm inflammation, to restore balance, to grant rest where exhaustion has become familiar, teaching us to honor the bodies you have given us as temples of your Spirit, not with fear but with gratitude and care. And if your body feels tired or fragile in this season, you may quietly place your hand over your heart or wherever you feel discomfort, inviting God's healing nearness to meet you right there with calm and reassurance. Provider of all good things, as our thoughts circle back to daily needs and long-term hopes, we remember how Scripture says the righteous are never forsaken, nor their children left begging for bread. And so we entrust to you our work, our opportunities, our efforts that sometimes feel small or unnoticed, asking you to bless what our hands touch, to bring integrity into our labor, clarity into our planning, and favor where discouragement has tried to settle, teaching us to trust not in scarcity but in your abundance that flows in quiet, faithful ways. And if there is a specific need pressing on your mind right now, a practical concern you replay at night, you can gently offer it here, believing that God delights in caring for even the most ordinary details of your life. Lord of relationships, as this prayer continues to weave through the corners of our lives, we bring before you the bonds that shape us, the friendships that sustain us, the partnerships that challenge us, and the family ties that both comfort and test our hearts, remembering how your word calls us to live in peace with one another, as much as it depends on us. And so we ask you to soften harsh words before they are spoken, to heal misunderstandings that have lingered too long, to restore trust where it has been broken, and to teach us how to listen with humility and love, allowing your grace to flow through every interaction. And if there is a relationship that weighs on you right now, someone you long to understand or be understood by, you may quietly place that connection into God's hands, trusting Him to work gently in both hearts over time. Steady Shepherd, as our hearts settle deeper into this shared stillness, we remember how you lead beside quiet waters and restore our souls. And so we bring you the restlessness that keeps us awake, the worries that replay in the dark, the fatigue that no amount of sleep seems to cure, asking you to teach us how to truly rest in you, to release control without fear, to trust that you are at work even when we pause, reshaping our understanding of strength so it includes surrender and grace, reminding us that we do not carry life alone. And if your mind has been racing or your spirit feels worn thin, you can allow yourself right now to lean back into God's presence, trusting that His peace does not rush, but gently holds you until calm returns. God of light, as this prayer stretches forward without hurry, we remember how your word says that your lamp guides our feet and your truth illuminates the path ahead. And so we bring before you our uncertainty about the future, the questions we cannot yet answer, the doors that remain closed, asking you to guard our hearts from despair and impatience, to help us trust the timing that unfolds beyond our understanding, to remind us that waiting is not wasted when it is held in faith, shaping us quietly in the dark soil of hope. And if you feel anxious about what tomorrow holds or where your life is headed, you can gently place that unknown into God's care now, believing that He sees the full horizon, even when you only see the next step. Faithful Redeemer, as this devotion continues to breathe and expand, we remember how your word speaks of you as near to those who call on you in truth, and so we bring before you the quiet battles of the heart, the doubts that surface when prayers take longer than expected, the moments when faith feels fragile rather than strong, asking you to strengthen what feels thin, to reassure us that belief is not the absence of struggle, but the choice to trust you within it, anchoring us in the promise that you never abandon the work of your hands. And if you have been questioning whether God still hears you or sees your effort, you can gently let that uncertainty rest here, trusting that even whispered faith is enough for Him to respond with steady love. Merciful God, as this prayer continues without rushing toward an ending, we bring before you the weight of responsibility we carry for others, the roles we hold as parents, children, caretakers, leaders, and friends, remembering how your word invites us to cast our cares upon you because you care for us. And so we ask you to lighten what feels overwhelming, to teach us how to serve without losing ourselves, to love without burning out, To trust that we are not the sole source of strength for those we care about, but vessels through which your grace flows, steady and sufficient. And if you feel tired from holding everything together for everyone else, you can quietly allow yourself in this moment to hand some of that burden back to God, believing He is strong enough to carry what you were never meant to bear alone. God of restoration, as this sacred thread of prayer keeps weaving through the unseen spaces of our lives, we remember how Scripture tells us that you restore what has been lost and make all things new in your time. And so we bring before you the seasons that feel wasted, the opportunities that slipped away, the regrets that still echo when everything grows quiet, asking you to redeem what pain tried to steal, to breathe purpose into what feels broken, to show us how nothing surrendered to you is ever truly gone, but transformed with gentle intention. And if there is a chapter of your life you wish could be rewritten, you can softly place it here now, trusting that God's restoring love reaches backward and forward, reshaping even the parts you thought were beyond repair. Everlasting God, as this prayer continues to unfold with quiet endurance, we remember how your word tells us that those who hope in you will renew their strength. And so we bring before you the long waits, the unanswered questions, the perseverance required when change comes slowly, asking you to steady our hearts when impatience rises, to renew courage where discouragement has whispered lies, to remind us that endurance is not empty suffering, but sacred growth held in your care, shaping character and trust in ways we cannot yet measure. And if you feel worn down by how long you have been waiting for things to shift, you can gently breathe out that weariness here, trusting that God is present in the waiting just as faithfully as in the breakthrough. God of faithful presence, as this devotion keeps moving forward without reaching its end, we remember how Scripture speaks of you as the one who never leaves nor forsakes us. And so we bring before you the quiet loneliness that can exist even among others, the feeling of being unseen, unheard, or misunderstood, asking you to draw near in ways that feel personal and real, to remind us that your companionship does not fade with changing seasons or circumstances, to help us sense your nearness in silence as much as in clarity, anchoring our hearts in the truth that we are always held. And if you have been feeling alone in ways you rarely explain, you can gently acknowledge that here, allowing God to meet you in that space with a presence that does not require words. Loving Father, as this prayer finally reaches its gentle horizon, we gather everything we have placed before you, our bodies, our families, our work, our waiting, our purpose, trusting the promise of Scripture that you are able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine. And we rest in the truth that you hold our past with mercy, our present with grace, and our future with hope, asking now that your peace would settle like a soft covering over every heart listening, that your wisdom would guide each step ahead, that your provision would meet every need, and that your healing would continue to flow long after these words fade. And if you desire to receive this blessing personally, you may quietly open your heart to God right now, allowing His love to move freely within you, and may the Lord bless you and keep you. May His face shine upon you with compassion. May His presence bring rest to your soul and strength to your days. And may you walk forward knowing you are deeply loved, carefully guided, and never alone. If this prayer touched your heart in any way, allow it to reach other lives as well. Like this video as a gesture of gratitude to God, and share it with someone who needs peace, strength, or hope today. Sometimes a simple prayer can be exactly what someone was waiting to hear.